Please welcome Andrew Bennett.
Let's go. Welcome to day 2 of Engage. Let's do it. Smartsheet as a company, thanks to all of your support, has grown quite a lot in the last few years. And we've grown enough that there are actually quite a few of our team members at Smartsheet who, as of a week ago, had never experienced an in-person Engage. And so on an all-team call about a week ago, I was trying to let people know, like, kind of what to expect, what's the vibe like. And so I told the story that in 2017, at our first Engage, I just checked in, day 1, I'm standing by the registration booth. This woman walks in, never seen her before in my life. She gets close to me and she sees my badge and she sees that I'm a Smartsheet employee, and she runs the last few steps and gives me a giant hug and proceeds to tell me her story and tell me about the impact that Smartsheet has had on her and her team. And that was sort of my first introduction for this incredibly contagious energy that you all have. I've always said that Engage is an absolute energy factory, and I know you feel it too. The passion and the enthusiasm that each of you bring here to Engage is just electric. You are truly what makes Smartsheet special. The solutions you build, the teams you enable, and most of all, the amazing outcomes that you're able to achieve with our platform. Yesterday, we got a chance to tell you about all the things that we've been cooking up, and now we're going to turn it around. So today, it's all about hearing from you. I'm so excited for the opportunity today to moderate our customer panel and dig into the ways that you have been putting Smartsheet to work in your organizations. Engage has always been about community. That's what inspired us to hold our first Engage in 2017, and it's really why we're here this week. For years before we even held our first customer conference, we had been hearing from all of you that you wanted to know more about what you could do with Smartsheet. And you wanted to learn not just from us, but from your peers. You wanted to know what's made them successful and how they're using Smartsheet to amplify their powers. So as you walked into the hall this morning, you saw a few quotes on screen from our overachievers. So Overachievers is a program we have to recognize and support a small group of absolute superhero advocates who use Smartsheet to amplify their powers, and who also provide us with really important ongoing feedback and support to help us improve. Like Pam Ferguson of Booz Allen Hamilton, who's used Smartsheet to save over $1 million in time cost over the past year. Or Giacomo Crucinio from Pricer, who calls Smartsheet the driver of our complex business process. And it's this incredible drive that I see in our amazing group of overachievers, this hunger to learn and also a passion to share. I personally have learned so much from them, and so I would like to take a moment to thank them for all they do. So overachievers, please rise, and let's give them an amplified round of applause. Awesome. Whether you're one of our overachievers or a future overachiever, I love that you want to learn from what others have done and to apply it to your own work. So that's what this session is all about. This morning on our panel, we're so lucky to have an incredible group of Smartsheet customers from companies of all sizes, and they're super ready and willing to share their stories with you. There's so much diversity in the type of work that all of you do, the size of your organizations, the industries where you make a difference, and that's what we're trying to showcase with the customers joining us on stage today. So I have some questions for our panelists, and we really want your questions as well. So after the 6 of us talk for a bit, we're going to do some Q&A. So the QR code here on the Gigantotron will send you, of course, to a Smartsheet form where you can submit questions. You can submit them now. You can submit while we're talking if you want to learn more about what we're discussing. And towards the end of the discussion, we'll go through as many questions as we can. All right, let's get started. All right, let's meet our panelists. Marty Hoffer, to my left, is founder and CEO of Luminomics, a small business based here in Seattle that does custom lighting design and installation. And Marty is also a super passionate advocate for small businesses. Marcos Cortez. Marcos is a managing director at KPMG who manages a highly complex M&A business. So other end of the spectrum. Welcome, Marcos.
Thank you.
Rosie Sell is VP of Marketing at Climate Pledge Arena, right here in beautiful Lower Queen Anne in Seattle, the most sustainable arena in the world. Welcome, Rosie. Bhavik Joshi is Director of Growth Marketing Tech Programs and Product Operations at Uber. So Bhavik and his team deliver some of the most innovative demand and data science programs in the world. And Jessica Thompson is solution lead for the Stride team at Cisco. She leads an incredible team that supports public sector. Okay, so let's click down one level and learn a little bit more about our group. So I'm going to ask each of you to just give us a minute or two on your role in your company and how you're using Smartsheet. Marty.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew, and hello, enthusiasts, Smartsheet enthusiasts. At Luminomics, we call you Smarties. It sounds like you're overachievers. I love that. I'm the founder and CEO, as Andrew said, and we are a natural lighting company. We put natural light first. Our mission is to maximize natural light in design spaces. And beyond our passion for Smartsheet and natural light, we believe that new ideas can't come from the same old places. And so we strive to recruit LGBTQ+, people of color, and women to be part of the construction industry. Yeah, thank you. And so, thank you. And so one of the things we have done is there's a 6-story roller shade at the Seattle Convention Center. And so we bring that natural light from the windows and tops of buildings, and we partner with architects, engineers, owners, to not just think about, I need a window shade, but when it's 6 stories, it's a big deal. Or if you're putting a shade in Climate Pledge Arena, the greenest arena, you really need to also think about how the occupants are going to interact with that shade and what it does to the space. So beyond just filling the specification and meeting the building energy code, we're really thinking about how we create those spaces and what the natural light's doing and how we don't want the roller shade and the occupants to hook their purse on it and then get the call for the repair that I just heard about.
Awesome. Thank you, Marty. Marcos.
Yeah, I'm from KPMG Strategy. Within our organization, we basically help clients from all industry sectors in supporting their inorganic strategy in form of, say, acquisitions, divestitures, integrations. And basically, we help them do the right stuff. We help them transition people, process, technology, contract, assets. And we really use Smartsheet to really accelerate, the execution of those transactions to ensure our clients are successful. But most important, we foster really collaboration, right? That means we really use the stack of our technology and stack of our, say, methodology to really accelerate transactions and ensure that our clients are successful on their, say, inorganic activities.
Awesome. Love it. Huge impact. Rosie.
Yeah, any Kraken fans in the crowd?
Yeah.
Preseason starts next week for our second season. So again, Climate Pledge Arena, we're just down a short monorail ride. Originally built in 1962, the arena was rebuilt and opened last year in October, and we are the home of the Kraken, home of the Seattle Storm. Any Storm fans? Go Super.
Yeah.
Love that. And then tons of live content. So we were just talking about how excited we were for Post Malone coming up here in November. But tons of different concerts and events. My role is butts in seats, like the thousands of people here. But we sell tickets, promotions, PR, earned media, ad buying, and we work with all of our promoters, Live Nation, AEG, all the big guys, all the way down to some of our smaller friends with like STG and some of those. And I was talking with Andrew, we use Smartsheet to manage the chaos of live entertainment. It's a very fast-moving, fast-paced industry. Things change all the time. You're at the whim of managers, artists, promoters who change their mind a lot. Different things happen. So we use Smartsheet to be a single point of truth and origin of that information to disseminate across our departments, to put shows on sale so all of you lovely people can come have a good time.
Yeah, Rosie can definitely talk to you about scale and pace. We're gonna hear more about that in a few minutes. Bhavik.
First of all, Andrew, thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
It's my second Engage, and let me just tell you, this in-person Engage is a lot more engaging.
Agreed.
I run the global technology programs and operations teams for Uber's growth marketing org. Over the past 4 years, our cross-functional teams of product managers, engineers, data scientists, program managers, and technical marketers have built truly a best-in-class MarTech stack for paid CRM, web, and SEO to drive user growth, retention, and engagement. So we use a Smartsheet to simplify, standardize, and operationalize 17 of our most complex workflows and processes, such as post-M&A integrations, lifecycle campaign creations. And this makes my org one of the biggest users of Smartsheet within Uber. And outside of my org, I know for a fact that the strategy and planning team in LATAM is a significant user as well. And in fact, that was the team that introduced me to Smartsheet back in 2018. Super happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bhavik. Jessica.
Hi, and again, thank you for having me here too. I'm really excited to be back at Engage 2022. Okay. As you mentioned, I work at Cisco as part of the customer experience organization for public sector. And Smartsheet core and premium applications are part of my everyday life. And in fact, I've made a reputation and a role based on Smartsheet solutioning. And we have so many fascinating and amazing and unique use cases, and I'd love to talk about all of them. I know we don't have the time for that. But what I want to say is, since we've had Smartsheet in our environment, we've really been able to remove data silos and get a more comprehensive story using data that already existed. And with that, we are quicker and more educated in the decisions that we're making for how we invest and how we develop our people.
Fantastic. And Cisco has quite a few Smartsheet users, right? Roughly how many?
So I think last count, and I know it's not exact, I believe we had around 70,000.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I would call that scale. So we've had some great conversations over the last couple weeks getting ready for this conversation, and one of the things that was really obvious to me is that there are some very clear themes that emerge when you talk to companies that are really successful with Smartsheet. And I think in every one of our conversations, one thing that we talked a lot about was onboarding. So we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about onboarding. Marty, one of the things that I think is really interesting about your company and your users of Smartsheet is it's a super wide range of backgrounds, right? From tradespeople up to really technology savvy people in finance. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what that means, and is your onboarding such a diverse group of people? How does that inform how you think about onboarding?
Absolutely. The reason we fell in love with Smartsheet is that it was an agile tool. And whether we are onboarding somebody that's in a lift 6 stories up at the convention center, taking a photo that needs to land on an architect's desk in like a matter of minutes, I was able to create an internal video that we showed the tradesperson with the mobile app how to do that. And so in a matter of seconds, and we could get the information from our own team across the country to the architect's desk, and everybody can be having a video conference with that information.
Yeah, that's cool. And so do you have like a standard set of videos that you would typically walk most users through, or is it more like that where you're thinking about a specific use case and you just bang something out and send it?
No, we have a standard set of videos that we've created for the various roles within our organization, whether you're in the field using a mobile device or at your desk using the computer.
Yeah, great.
But creating your own videos is very powerful with your own language around how you use Smartsheet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we feel like we have some great onboarding content, but it's so much more impactful, I think, when it's tied to your own use case. So love what you're doing there. Thank you. So Marcos, in your business model in consulting, changing teams are basically built into the model, right? I mean, people are sort of constantly coming and going. That's how consulting businesses work. So in light of that, so much change in your user base, how do you get people up to speed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Andrew. The main thing is we have a dedicated team within KPMG strategy that's really designed to kind of support the development of solutions for our clients. Then basically we have a project team that we go to the internal, say, intake process where we analyze, okay, what is the industry vertical, what is the transaction archetype, what is in scope for the transaction, and we basically assign a group of people that are going to support the deployment of that solution. Then in terms of the training, we have really to map the stakeholders, right? I have an internal training that's designed for our developers in which they go a typical rotation program, let's say 6 months. They're going to be onboarding in 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to learn how to develop solution on Smartsheet, and they're going to be supporting us for more or less 5 months. Mm-hmm. With that, we also, after 5 months, we release them back to the wild, but that's what we typically say. And with that, we start organically develop our own community of Smartsheet users. Furthermore, we have our training center in Orlando. It is like a massive facility what we call Lake House. When on an annual basis, we do transaction execution training in which we use Smartsheet to train our practitioners. That means we have simulation-based cases that we run during the course of a week, and we use our stack, develop on Smartsheet to really train our practitioners. That means we have training programs that are designed for our free collaborators, and we have training users that are really designed for our developers.
Got it. Yeah, so if you're actually using Smartsheet to run the training program, by default, everyone's going to get up to speed, right?
Right. And then the main thing is the organic aspect. I truly believe, in human capital development using organic development, because not only you create a really good roadmap for professional development, but you also organically start developing a young community of Smartsheet users.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and speaking of community, just back to you for a second here, Marty. You talked about the fact that you declare people champions of Smartsheet. So how do you identify those people? What does it mean when you say you're a Smartsheet champion?
Yeah, the number one factor we're looking for is curiosity. Starting with no rules, and they want to play with the mobile device, or they're asking those questions, demonstrating that they're curious. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, great. Okay, so individual teams can get a lot of benefit from Smartsheet, but we all know, I think, that when we can have greater impact when there are other people involved, right? Other orgs. Not only as users of Smartsheet, but often we need to collaborate with other teams in support of Smartsheet. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how this group thinks about engaging with other teams. And so, Rosie, you're heavy users of Smartsheet and Brandfolder combined, and you mentioned already today that you think of it as a single source of truth. And so part of the benefit is that people from all departments can kind of participate. So that's great for you, but when you're looking to bring another team in to the environment, how do you make that sound good to them? Like, how do you make other teams want to participate with you?
I think we just show them like what we're able to do. I think that's really, really important. We, raised our hand. We were building an arena, a hockey team, an arena team during a global pandemic. Not something I would suggest doing for those wanting to. Really, really hard. The benefit of that was that we were building everything from scratch. We didn't have a lot of systems that we had to okay, we knew you did that, but we had a lot of personalities who have been on this software their entire time, and we got to look at it and say, okay, how does my team want to intake a massive amount of information? So, example is a show confirms through our programming team. Post Malone is going to be on this date and it's going to announce at this time. And then there's all of the different pre-sales and on-sale information. The ad mat has to create our advertising materials. That gets sent to us. That has to go to creative to spit out 60-odd different assets for every single show. We're doing probably 150 shows a year on top of hockey, basketball, and private events. We're going to start a tours program. There's a lot going on. We're on all the time. And so when we were able to show people, like, we actually just input this information in once, then it pings the box office. This is the information we have, because notoriously promoters don't talk to each other either. Yep. So this is what we have. Do you have that same thing? This goes to our email calendar, so our email specialists can build out all of the emails that you guys get so you can buy tickets. All of that sort of flows through. And then when that inevitably changes 2 hours before you're supposed to announce, we put it back into Smartsheet. It pings everyone, whoa, whoa, stop, pause. That got pushed till next month. So that was really, really important, because doing that over email while you're building a building is impossible. I think everyone can agree. Like, my inbox is a dumpster fire. Yeah. So like, anything that we can do to get people off of email for really important information was just huge. And I think we just showed departments. And now I know our VP of technology is somewhere in here, and he's like fighting people off for licenses. Yeah. So people are like, we really, really want to see how this solution, we can build something that does the same thing or works with all the solutions we already have built.
Yeah, awesome. So a lot of it is about you're sort of leading with the benefit, right? Leading with the benefit as opposed to some sort of edict or ask that someone come participate in something that does not immediately have benefit. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be a super interesting conversation with Bhavik. So particularly in larger orgs, it's not uncommon that budget for Smartsheet maybe is held in multiple locations. There are purchasing decisions and renewal decisions that can be somewhat complicated. And so Bhavik shared with me that the way it works at Uber is that IT actually owns the contract for Smartsheet. And every year, IT comes to you and basically asks you how it's going so that they can be thoughtful about their Smartsheet renewal. So super interested in, what is that conversation like? What are they asking you when you're thinking about justifying the value of Smartsheet to your IT team who owns the contract? What are you talking about?
Jeez, thanks Andrew, for that softball.
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience from IT, my friends in IT? I see some hands, yeah. You have a very difficult job, and often a thankless job, so thank you for doing what you do. But jokes aside, I take that conversation quite seriously, and I've done 3 things that have led to successful conversations year after year. First and foremost, I treat them as an important stakeholder, and I share with them all the content, the use cases that my team creates on the savings, the benefits from bringing Smartsheet, the single source of truth, all of those tangible and intangible benefits. We create case studies for our leadership, and some of them are also on the Smartsheet website. So I share that with them. I sort of educate them on exactly how we are. So you essentially lead with facts and evidence with those case studies. Second is this is very important, the speed and ease with which my team can build these solutions. That's super important. We are fully independent. That speed and independence for my team to essentially crank out these 17 different workflow solutions is very important to me and to our org. So that is something that you should demonstrate and talk about. And third, I think the human aspect is also important. The relationships that you all have with your CSMs at Smartsheet, with your account managers at Smartsheet, the sales engineers that help build your proof of concepts of pilots, that is really important. And for a company this size, my experience has been extremely positive. So you package these 3 things together and essentially bring it to IT. And so far, knock on wood, it's working.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that viewing it as a really valued partnership can change the dynamics of the conversation quite a lot. Jessica, another conversation that we talked about that can be a little bit nuanced stems from the fact that a lot of organizations have big technology investments that are existing. And one platform that a lot of companies have spent a lot of money on is M365, right? Companies have big Microsoft investments. So for those who don't necessarily understand Smartsheet, on the surface, you mentioned that you get questions about like, why can't we just do this with M365?
With SharePoint.
Yeah, exactly.
Specifically. I believe a lot of this comes from familiarity with Microsoft. We all cut our teeth on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? And so when SharePoint came along as part of that portfolio, it had a visibility immediately. And that's it. That's the key. It's visibility. It's what people see. If you were to take a SharePoint site and you were to take a Smartsheet dashboard and set them side by side, they look very similar, right? They look alike. And your end user, if you've designed a solution in Smartsheet and you've done a great job, your end user doesn't see what's happening behind the scenes. Right. Okay, and that's great. Your end users should have it as simple as possible. Their experience should be easy. But the reality is there's a lot happening behind the scenes to make all of those things work. Dashboards and grids are the simplest, most basic piece of what Smartsheet does. When you have workflows that automate and make smart decisions based on user interactions, when you have the ability to pull data in from multiple sources and build a holistic story with that, when you have a template that you can replicate with customized data 100 times in the same amount of time it's going to take you to brew a pot of coffee. And when you can do that with a single platform, and you can do it with people who have a very basic skill set, you start understanding, hey, there's a big difference between SharePoint and Smartsheet. And Office 365, there's a lot of products in that suite. They're great products. They do great things. But there's a learning curve, a big learning curve, and there's a lot of complexity to it. That's the reality. There are costs associated with licensing, right? Not just for the developers, but for your users. And sometimes, depending on which part it is, there's licensing costs for your viewers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, the time to value equation is a really powerful one, right? In the speed with which you can actually get a solution up and running matters. Yeah, and completely agreed. We have a great partnership with Microsoft. There's a ton of great technology. We have a lot of great integrations. But yeah, I think in a lot of cases that sort of differentiated time to value story helps a ton.
Yeah, it does.
So a third theme that we've been talking about already over the last couple of days and came up in our conversations as well is just the idea of getting to scale. So if we have a certain amount of impact delivering 1 unit, how can I deliver 10 units or 100 units? And so, Rosie, speed and scale, I was blown away the first time you sort of described to me what it's like and the number of touch points involved in putting on a program at the arena. Tell us a little bit about that and how you think about execution at scale.
Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit, but it's really about being able to deliver assets creative. We don't own that creative, it's the show's creative, but we have to distribute it across a whole variety of places, not just within our own institutional assets like our digital signage, which is, I think I have the number, it's 126 million pixels that we control. So we have to do creative for all of those digital boards, our website, the Kraken website, the Seattle Center website, iHeart partnerships, everywhere, and now we're in Amazon, we're gonna try to be in Amazon Fresh stores. So a lot of different places that have to have this creative, and it has to be the right creative, the approved creative, and it has to be able to be time-stamped. And so what we do is we put all of this into our intake form, it kicks it over to our creative team, gives them a card, they build it all out, tag it into brand folder, which then has collections that all of those wonderful people that I just mentioned can go pull from. I don't have to send them an email. I don't have to make sure that my files are not big enough or too big for the email, all of those different things. They literally have their own space that they can just go and pull creative for and then help us create awareness for the show that's coming up for a sellout. And that has been such a huge piece because it would take an army to do just those little things.
How many digital displays in the arena?
Oh my gosh. Well, the assets that we were created for just the arena, not including Seattle Center, I think it's 546 pieces of creative that are done through an After Effects template.
Yeah, for every show.
But for every show. And so on average, since we opened, we've been announcing 1 to 2 shows a week. Next week we have 2 more, so follow us on social. They're gonna be good. So we do that every single week. On top of the fact they're actually executing shows, right? We have, like we call Live Tonight, so we've got special creative. If you've been in the arena, we have this really beautiful column that's 4 sides of LED, and it's like an Instagram heaven. Sometimes operation gets a little bit irritated with us because we're like, you're blocking the window. It's fine, they want their Instagram photo. But we do all of that, and talking about just the scale of it, we have 8 shows in a row, and I think starting with Kraken season, preseason on the 25th, we're gonna do 42 events in 60 days over the next 2 months. So it's constant, and that's on top of announcing the shows for next year. Yep. So we just need something that can be really, really simple, easy. We put it in, it goes to the places, the people get what they need, and then we can move on to the next.
Yeah, when we were talking about doing the Outfit acquisition, right, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, which is all about content automation inside Brandfolder. That story that you told me was one of the first things that came to mind. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Speaking of automation, Marcos, you have a lot of automation built into your solutions. Yep. When do you identify that now is the time to build an automation? Like where do you think about applying automation, and how do you scale with automation?
Yeah, and then the main thing for us is really to understand what our client needs and how our project team is managing directly those engagements with our clients needs to facilitate the transaction. That's why, number one, I continue to emphasize that is, okay, we have a dedicated development team to support the deployment of the technology across all industries and across multiple, let's say, countries within KPMG. 2, we have a very institutional, let's say, intake process that allows our development team to really understand the needs. Mm-hmm. Because philosophically, automation, when it's leveraged correctly, is all about, let's say, automated, say, basically simple tasks that it's probably routine by definition, and allow us to really spend more time in deliver value content to, our clients, customers, all the stakeholders involved with the undertake. But to me, one important aspect about automation is typically they start very small. There is always a small use case. What I always challenge the team is, okay, how are we going to scale? Mm-hmm. The scalability of automation is an important component. That means find the right balance into define the use cases, validate all your hypotheses, and go to the development, which scale is an important factor. Mm-hmm. That means to me, it's really that intake process that we institutionalize is a key component to allow us to really learn what are the needs and how we're going to execute it.
Can you give an example of an automation that you feel like has been particularly impactful?
Yeah, I mean, we have several examples, but the main thing for me is to allow us to be a little bit more smart about, let's say, activity status and have automation. For example, we have thousands of activities. I was just, working with one of our developing teams yesterday. They crossed the line of the reference, a 2.5 million reference, because the work plan was so massive. But the main thing is about predictively, having prediction of outcomes. If you know that a particular activity is going to get delayed for a given reason, and especially dealing with acquisitions, divestitures, everything goes very fast. And warn that stakeholder, say, you have a pain point here that might be a problem. And typically, we do a lot of automation associated and kind of predict certain outcomes of activities and warn the stakeholders to be a little bit more proactive in terms of the project status.
Got it. Love it. Love it. Okay, I'm going to ask now our panelists to go back in the Wayback Machine. You all are having a ton of success on Smartsheet today, but I want you to go back to day one of usage of Smartsheet at your org. What advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now, on day one of your Smartsheet journey? And we'll start on the far end with Jessica.
Turn off autosave. Yeah, it can be painful when you accidentally overwrite 10,000 cells and then it saves and you lose your undo function. And ask me how I know this. I can't even blame it on a cat. I don't even have a cat. So that brings me to the second thing that I would go back and tell myself, back everything up. It takes 2 seconds to go into your workspace and schedule it back up.
Yep.
And it can keep you from having to manually re-update those 10,000 cells. So,
Safety first.
safety first.
Bhavik.
Yeah, so, you ought to think of workflow and productivity solutions the same way you think about product development. The UI and the UX, the user experience matters. Training your users on the solution matters. Their adoption and engagement with these workflows and processes that you build using Smartsheet matters. Because at the end of the day, hundreds of knowledge workers are depending on using these solutions day in and day out. Business critical outcomes depend on these. And if you don't focus on that UI and UX, you're not going to drive engagement, and that's going to be a problem. So focus on building your solutions the same way a product manager would think about building products. That's one. And second is, do not underestimate the power of this ability to visualize the same information as a sheet or in reports or in a card view or in dashboards or in roadmap. Right? That is the power that allows us to essentially have a single source of truth as opposed to building sheets and spreadsheets and docs and decks for sharing that information. So that is, again, remind yourself each day that capability is one of the superpowers.
Absolutely. Quick reminder before we get to Rosie, just a few minutes left to submit your questions before we go into our Q&A piece, so fire away on the QR code. If there's anything you want me to ask the panel, Rosie.
Well, I think when we were building our solution out, we were trying to kind of plan for the unknown a little bit, and that was really hard because we were not up and running yet. We didn't really know what the future was going to hold as far as what the events were going to look like coming out of the pandemic. I think that what was really important on the building of our solution that I think we could have done a better job if I had to go back. But I think you guys did a phenomenal job is going back to the people. The people at Smartsheet were really, really integral in understanding our business. We have a really unique product. It's perishable. It's a little bit chaotic, as I've mentioned previously. But I feel like Andreas, who was our solution specialist, really took the time, and sometimes it was painful because I was like, can we just go? I need this now. But he really took the time to understand what we were trying to solve for and what it was going to take on the solution side to actually make that happen. So if I had to go back, I would say really, really think about the foundation of what you're trying to accomplish before you start adding tons of bells and whistles. But I think that you guys did a really good job actually of hand-holding us through that process.
Awesome. Yes, we have a ton of great people at Smartsheet. I think a lot of you know that, and love the opportunity to help. So there's a lot of different ways that you can engage us, and we've been through it a few times, and often can help get you a little closer when you start out. Absolutely. Marcos.
Yeah, to me, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. I've been using Smartsheet for a couple of years, and then good shout out to my client over there, Sandra Valencia. Send up, she's awesome. She works for AbbVie, fantastic client. But the point is, we started this journey a couple of years ago, and I've been planning to have, let's say, a development team, create a methodology development team for quite a while. We really kick off on the beginning of this fiscal year, and the foundation of our, let's say, strategy was based on 3 pillars. Number 1 was the go-to-market. Really focus in how we're gonna deliver value to our clients, to the market, right? Let me say, we spend a lot of time, validating our hypotheses, creating use cases to really be successful in the marketplace. 2 is the technology. We're a large organization, as you know, and we have an instrumental amount of expertise and breadth of capabilities. That means we spend a lot of times talking to our data analytics teams because I want to leverage, I want to have more predictive analytics as we go through projects because I want to be learning more and more about those projects. We wanted to have dynamic visualization with Power BI. We spend a lot of time, in developing the technology. And number 3 was about human capital. We're in the people business. I'm here to support our clients, but most importantly, my main focus is to support the development of my people. And the point I'm trying to make is really, if I knew what I knew today, because we launched our solution in July 13 on a global event, broadcasting in New York to all the KPMG entities that were available to join. And our technology solution, which we call KPMG Transaction Execution Accelerator, got viral. I mean, we have, more than 10 live projects currently, a huge pipeline. I have a backlog. And knowing what I know, I would recruit more people because I already have 12 people working dedicated, this onshore and offshore. I would triple the size of the team because I'm bleeding for personnel.
You heard it here.
Send me a resume. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Okay, advice for day 1, Marty.
Day 1, going in the Wayback Machine. Smartsheet was my pandemic toy. Many people were growing plants and running like mad. I had my 3 screens. When I go back, assuming you love mobile and you can go out 3D, it is go out and use the tool and ask yourself what has to happen in the first 5 seconds when they're there, and make sure you have that and you can do that easily in that first 5 seconds. Make it easy.
I agree. And to that point, when we were setting up this form for the meeting, my instructions were make it really, really, really easy. Fast and easy and simple. Okay, fantastic. I have a bunch more questions that I would like to ask the panel, but I know that you all have submitted a lot of great questions as well. So my friend Paula is walking out. Thank you, Paula. With my fate in her hands. I hope you all were kind. And we'll take an opportunity to give you all some questions from the group. That's funny. So the intent was that these questions were going to come from customers, but I actually have a question here from a Smartsheet team member. It's from Mike Andrews, who runs our large enterprise business at Smartsheet, and he wants to know where I got my shirt. Sorry, Mike, that's a trade secret. Okay, Rosie, without naming any names, can you tell us about a last-minute change that an artist demanded and how Smartsheet saved the day?
Oh my gosh, I can name like 7. I won't name names because I don't know who all is in the room. I would say even in the last two weeks, we had a show that we announced, and it did go on sale, and everything happened. It changed 7 times. The announcement and the on sale and and it changed for a variety of reasons. Sometimes this particular group, they have to get the production and all of the scaling for ticketing first, because in order to sell tickets, you probably need to have tickets to sell. And so that kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. And we were like, start, stop, start, stop. We have it. Do we have artwork? We don't have artwork. Oh, artwork has Key Arena in the background, which actually happens more often than I would particularly love. Oops, sorry, love. But so that happened a bunch of times, 7 times. This show has moved on sale and announcement dates. Did finally go on sale. It's doing pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally hard to imagine how you would pull it all off without a platform like.
It's hard. Well, I got pretty good at Excel,
Yeah.
but I do say this is a much better solution for sure. But on top of I was just saying all of our institutional assets, we also plan our media buys off this. I didn't mention that before. So when you have a show that's moving an announcement or an on-sale date, and you have a bunch of media that you've bought to support that, you have to go back to your radio partners, your TV partners, whoever, pull that inventory. Thank goodness they love us because we do that all the time. Pull tickets back, and then reissue those for the new on-sale date. And then if that happens so many times, people get really irritated with you. So being able to sort of have, again, like that single source of truth, this is what is current as of right now. It may change until it's announced and on sale. But that happened, just this last week, 7 times.
That's amazing. That's amazing. There's a few product questions in here, and one is kind of related to my question about day one. But it was basically everybody gets excited occasionally when they discover a new feature in Smartsheet. And I'll ask this to anyone in the group who'd like to respond. What's a feature that you wish you would have found sooner?
I have one that didn't exist until recently.
Nice.
That I was very excited about, which was just restricted usage on Brandfolder. We use it a ton. A lot of partners, media want images of the building. I want to know why they're using and what they're using it for. And so this was a new feature from Brandfolder that was restricted rights. So I make sure they click a button. They have to say what they're doing. I can sort of yell at them a little. It's good.
Yeah.
Mine would definitely be right-click for formula column.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Good one.
My epiphany moment was learning about index match versus VLOOKUP. And it was the lights. Just like it was amazing.
Formula junkies.
Yes.
Awesome. Bhavik, you use Control Center.
Yes.
We are just about to implement Control Center and are super excited. What advice do you have for us? And do you have any lessons learned specific to Control Center?
Yeah, so remember what I said earlier about the ease with which my team can build the solutions and the speed at which they can do this. For Control Center, I would say get the experts in. So we, it's because when you bring in Control Center, you're trying to solve something really complicated to begin with. So we worked with the experts here at Smartsheet, and they were able to get us up and running really quickly. I got someone on my team trained on using as well. However, I think that's one area where you want to get it right because it has to work flawlessly over and over and over again. So just work with the experts and you're in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, Control Center allows you to create a lot of something, so make sure you get it right. Don't scale the thing that's not quite right, and advice can be helpful there, absolutely. Marcos, what's the best element of Smartsheet that you've used specifically in due diligence in the M&A lifecycle?
Yeah, the main thing is, and I think we touched upon this a couple times, is the single source of truth.
Yeah.
And we use, especially when we can talk about, the dashboards and purpose of dashboards. And to me, it's really a visualization mechanism that allows me to, for example, having a conversation with the CFO and augment the information very rapidly, as opposed to use on-premise solutions where I need to call someone in Singapore that has the information. That individual needs to vet that thing with their senior partners. If I can get them on the same time zone, I probably will have this information, within 24 hours. I also have to process the information somehow. That means the time for me to share information is, with Smartsheet, changed dramatically because I just can walk in the room or go to a Zoom call and essentially be able to augment the information to senior executives very rapidly. That means when we think about the visualization, I'm thinking about the decision makers, how they need to see the information. Because the people that manage the day-to-day, they will be comfortable operating on a sheet environments. But I'm really focused on the people that may need that information at a given point in time, how they need to consume the information.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Okay, for the group, if you can remember, what was the very first thing you created in Smartsheet? And do you still use it?
No, we don't still use it because every time you build something, you find 10 better ways to build it.
Yeah.
Easier and with more stuff. But the first thing that we built was a tracking system for all of our public sector engineers, where they were being staffed, what amount of time they were spending, which technologies that they were delivering on, in order for us to understand the trends and the metrics of how we were delivering, what our capacity was. And so we did that for a while. We no longer use it. We have all of that automated now. We just pull it straight out of a Snowflake database table, and we're good to go. But at that point, that might have been the 10,000 rows that I that I overwrote.
Yeah. Marty?
We still do. I think when we're sleeping, Smartsheet is working. And by that, I mean on the job sites, we have night hours when crews are out there and have to work at night, and your PM's already asleep, and the client wants to know at 8 a.m., right, what happened? And so we just click that button. We still use that concept.
Yeah, and you mentioned you have someone in China, is that right?
Yeah, we do, in Taipei, in accounting, yeah. And so you want to bill, too. If they want to know it's done, then I want to say, yeah, it's done, now pay us.
Right.
Right? And so when we're sleeping, Smartsheet's working.
Yeah, awesome. Anybody else?
Sure. I mean, my first asset I built was essentially a roadmap or a pipeline for my own team. And that was 4 years ago, just kicking the tires, and I still use it. I use that asset for my staff meetings. I can go back and view cell history, and it'll take me, 4 years of things that we've discussed in these staff meetings with my team on our pipeline of projects that we work on. So, yeah, and that also keeps me and my skills fresh so that I can keep up with the rest of my team, whose skill levels with Smartsheet are accelerating a lot faster.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, we are out of time for questions. I have a few important points to cover before I let everyone go. First, thank you so much, panel. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Again, really consistent themes. Onboarding new users, super important. 2, we all get more value when we're working really effectively with other teams that are both using and supporting Smartsheet, like our partners in IT. And then again, these ideas of scale. How do we, when we have something where we have signal, how do we do more and more of it? I need your help as an audience. I need some pictures to post on social media, and you all are going to be in them. So Brandy is going to join us on stage here. So here's the challenge. We all can feel and hear the excitement in the room, and we need to be able to see the excitement in the room. So Brandy's going to take a couple shots, and I need all of you to physically show the amplified excitement of Engage, okay? We ready, Brandy? Here we go. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And thank you all. Love it.
Thank you.
I'm about to go viral. Okay, last super important point. This afternoon, while all of you are in breakouts, this room is going to go an unbelievable transformation, and we're having a party in here starting at 5. If you think the Gigantotron has done cool things the last couple of days, your mind is going to be blown at the party. So have a fantastic afternoon, and we'll see you back here at 5. Thanks.